Today is Monday, the 30th of March. My name is Adam Hebener, the CEO of Modern Mortgage, and this is your very special Treehouse edition of your Modern Minute. Thanks for joining me for this one, guys. Lots to share with you. As always, I feel like I have to say that every single time. We're still at that point where the coronavirus and the subsequent economic fallout continue to give us so much information to be sharing with you. There's two things I want to cover today. Number one is by far the biggest question I'm getting. Got a ton of it over the weekend. Lots of agents calling, a couple of buyers calling and saying, hey, I heard FHA, VA, USDA, I heard all government loans are going away. Is that true? So I'm first going to address that for you. You need to understand a little bit more about that rather than just get a simple answer. And the second thing I want to talk to you about is kind of the framework for how your decisions are going to work as you walk through this process. I think that's going to be one of the best things I can do just to help serve the folks that follow us and get you information you need. So let's start with that first question. What about FHA? Well, a video came out by a highly respected mortgage lender last week. Actually, he was a wholesaler last week. He's a guy I respect. He's the chairman of AIM, and my company is a member of AIM. I have nothing bad to say about the guy, Anthony Casa. But he explained to mostly lenders, some to the public, a mechanism by which FHA might go away. And you might call that kind of a doom mechanism that was coming across. And he gave a date certain for that. Mid-April, there'll be no more FHA. And he said it in a very certain way. Now, very subtly in his comment, he said, if something doesn't change, but most people didn't pick that up. And I understand that. I've had that experience before. I'll kind of say, hey, look, if this doesn't change, this could happen. And people will sort of miss the if. I think that happened with Anthony's comments. And I have to tell you, you have to understand where FHA comes from and what its role is in the government. Keep in mind, FHA was invented in I think it was 1934. We used to teach a class on this, so I'm doing this from memory, but I believe 1934 is when it was created, and it was a result of the Great Depression. FHA is actually under the authority of Housing and Urban Development. It's actually part of the federal government, unlike Fannie Mae and unlike Freddie Mac, which are GSEs. And we'll explain the difference between those. But essentially, Fannie and Freddie are kind of semi-private companies. FHA is not. FHA is a member of the government. It has always had the mandate to keep people in homes. And the idea that just FHA, VA, USDA, that they would just evaporate overnight is probably something that is oversaid. I think that's overdone. It is very, very unlikely that FHA would be able to go away, even though what Anthony was sharing is true and the mechanism he was explaining is accurate. It's just that the idea that those guys will not be given a special credit facility to be able to fund is extremely unlikely, because that would be completely defeating the purpose of even having FHA, USDA, and VA by extension. So this morning, not surprisingly, FHFA, which of course is the office that oversees FHA, came out and said indeed there was an emergency credit facility provided, and so that FHA should continue to be able to fund. And so guys, you're going to see that VA loans, FHA loans. If you're working with lenders who are able to kind of position around this stuff, who are looking down, understanding the mechanisms and seeing around the corners, you're going to be able to continue to fund these. And we are letting our agents know we've got some FHA deals in our pipeline. We've got some buyers who are using FHA deals, VA deals. We don't see these going away. Now look, we're in unprecedented times. And even as I say, I don't see them going away, I have to tell you, I am shocked that they were not included. FHA, VA, USDA, and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, none of them were included in the stimulus bill in terms of how their underlying servicing rights might be fulfilled if buyers don't have to make their payments. So I can understand the panic. Those who are saying that FHA and government loans are in big trouble, they're right. They are in big trouble. But the idea that they would be allowed to fall, I can tell you this. If they're allowed to fall, Fannie Mae will fall as well, Freddie Mac will fall as well, because the mechanisms that protect FHA are more robust than those that protect Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so we expect those to continue forward. That facility is in place. We're still approving them. But you do need to know this about those kinds of loans and any kind of loan in this market. If you're dealing with buyers who are less than pristine, let's say, whose credit scores are not great, 640 or below, even 660 and below now we're seeing today, The folks who have really small down payments, we've been telling you this from the beginning. If you've got low down payments, bad credit, rough income history, guys, it's going to be real tough to get a loan. And I want to tell you, don't take that as a criticism. Take that as an encouragement that it's time to wait. Allow the wisdom of your banker to kind of help you peer into the future a little bit and say your risk level might be too high. Now, for those of you who are not in that situation, you still have good reserves, you're putting down a good down payment, you feel comfortable about your income, you're still going to be getting decent interest rates, and you're still going to be moving forward as planned. Anybody who's bringing any kind of risk at all, cash out even adds risk, any kind of risk, higher than a basic purchase with W-2 income and a high credit score and a strong down payment. If your loan is anything other than that, expect that there's going to be bigger than normal jumps in your pricing. So you'll hear big ranges in mortgage origination rates being quoted right now. So watch for that. Okay. Now that's kind of the first concept. That's FHA. If you've got FHA in your pipeline and you're worried about it, call the lender. If it's not us, we've already called you. But if the lender has not called you, I would call and just ask, hey, what's the credit profile? How far are you through underwriting? Because I want you to know, if your credit profile on your buyer is not strong, many of these servicers are sending us notification that they will not buy these loans. So literally, it could be a day before closing, could be the day of closing. If they change their mind, they're not going to buy it. There's not much you can do about it. So make sure you know now. Time is the thing that will serve you best. Okay, that's topic number one. Now, topic number two is I want to talk about probably the largest underlying current of questions I get, comments I get, just the kind of what the heck is going on out in the world kind of perspective. And so let me talk you through a little bit about what's happening. There are really two narratives at play. And if you've been watching us at all, you've heard me talk a little bit about these two narratives, but I want to begin to flesh out this idea a little bit more. And in coming days, I'm going to share with you more on this topic. But the two narratives basically break down into two categories. The first idea is status quo. The world is not changing. This is a problem, but we can fix it with our old tools. And the new narrative, which is really the rules of the financial world, and I would even say the real economy, and let's go further and say even our social life, is now changing. The fabric of who we are as members of the globe is changing as a result of coronavirus. All kinds of things are going to be changing. Now, anytime we're in significant periods of social, geopolitical, and economic change, we see this same reaction, a very slow protection of the status quo by those who benefit from the status quo most. And so it's really common that you're going to hear things like, it's not that big a deal, it's just the flu. And then, of course, as time goes by, we find out, gosh, the death rate's too high. It's not. It couldn't be just the flu. You wouldn't shut down Italy, for instance, for just the flu. So as the evidence piles up that it's not just the flu, then you have to start looking for new evidence, which indicates, hey, maybe this is a bigger deal. You see the same narrative problem playing out in other places, right? You're hearing things like, well, the Fed will jump in and fix this. Well, I have news for you. The Fed has jumped in, and it has not fixed this so far. There's been a little bit of lubrication in terms of the liquidity in the secondary markets. That has improved things. But because the Fed really has no efficacy, or what we say, no power to improve the job markets or the capacity for Americans to stay in their jobs, pricing for mortgages, for instance, remains out of control. So what I want to help you walk through in the coming days is, how do you determine which narratives to trust? How do I know? I hear all kinds of information. How do I separate signal from noise? How do I align my actions and my advice with the correct narrative? How do I identify and then act on that correct narrative? So watch for us to talk more about that. Today, I just kind of want to introduce you. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know you're busy. So hopefully that FHA VA government information helps you. And then hopefully just this introduction, I want to help you start framing this. Frame it in that context. Those who believe that the status quo is fine and we just have to fix it, repair it, make the foundations better. And those who believe that the rules of this game are fundamentally changing. And I'm going to walk you through those two, hopefully help you to come to some conclusion. In the meantime, be safe out there. Continue to enjoy the best parts of life. Climb up into a treehouse if you can find one somewhere. If you're like my home, it's filled with little kids and they're a little too loud for me to do an update this long. And so I thought it might be a good idea to just steal a little time in the treehouse. So I think we'll keep going from the treehouse for a while. You guys shoot me some comments and feedback. Let me know if this works for you. And hey, let's keep swinging. We're still alive. We still got a lot of fight left in us. And we're looking forward to taking great care of everyone we can. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye.